EBT card and take home all the groceries they wanted, literally leaving with carts full of food and emptying every single aisle. There was nothing left. Now, this wasn't the case in the other states, as users were outraged over the food stamp glitch. Take a look at all of this.
You got rent, bills, and everything else you got to take care of. There's not a lot left over to cover food, and that's why the food stamps are so important.
When you don't have income and you can't find a job because there ain't no jobs out here, it puts food on your table.
It's not working at all. That's my money. That's how, that's how I pay my bills. That's how I feed my kids.
And here with reaction, former New Mexico Governor Bill Richardson, Fox News contributor Deneen Borelli, and from the Fox Business Network, Charles Payne. Good to see you. Congrats, by the way, Governor, on your new book.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Big success.
Thanks for the blurb you wrote for me.
Listen, we've always disagreed, but I've enjoyed civil debate with you. I got to give you a lot of credit, and I'm going to pull you over to my side eventually. Governor, here's my first question. 1 in 5 kids, 5 years into Obama's presidency, 1 in 5 kids in this country are in poverty. 1 in 6 Americans are in poverty. I'm going to put up on the screen, you look at the number of Americans from January 2009 to June of 2013. Look at that. We now have nearly doubled the number of Americans on food stamps. Hey, is that economic success? Is that a good, and the debt went up $7 trillion.
Sean, when you look at Obamacare, and that's one area that we disagree, 30 million Americans are going to get health care. 15 million just in the last weekend signed up for the health coverage.
Huh? 30 million won't be insured, according to CBO, after the full implementation of Obamacare.
I mean, my point is that there are a lot of poor people in this country. There's no question about it. The economy is not in good shape. The food stamp program, programs that are social in the states too. I had these glitches too with unemployment insurance, for instance. This happens, and it's unfortunate, but we do have a crisis in this country with the inequality and income gap. There's no question about it.
Let me show this video again, and you see this panic of people racing through the stores. The Walmart, I believe it was in Louisiana. The cupboards are bare after just a couple of hours. People grabbing everything they can. There's 1 in 6 Americans in that position. Didn't the president promise we'd get out of that?
Well, there are so many broken promises from President Obama, from Obamacare to our employment situation in our country, where he said the spending would create more jobs and keep our unemployment low, when in fact it has not. This is proof. This video shows us proof that government will fail you every time, and you're on your own. From this computer breakdown to the breakdown with the exchanges for Obamacare. People are looking to government to provide their wants and needs, when in fact it's not government's role. But not only that, government will fail you every time.
I know that liberalism, probably there are a lot of liberals, and I would even argue that Governor Richardson, although you had a pretty good economy when you were governor, you gave tax cuts in your state, if I remember correctly.
Yes, I did.
But I would argue that maybe a lot of liberals have a good big heart, but I think to creating a point where people are that desperate, living, hanging by a thread, rather than an economy that is thriving and growing, and that we're using our energy resources, for example, it seems like we're going just the wrong direction.
I agree 1,000%. You look at the issues we're dealing with right now, these are the same issues that LBJ was talking about with the so-called Great Society and all of the quote-unquote solutions back then. Fast forward 50, 60 years later, and we're still trying to pass the same sort of legislation for those same problems. And by the way, trillions of dollars later. And I got to tell you, here's the problem I have with it. When the governor talks about income inequality, that is a specious argument at best. First of all, it supposes that we have a static economy that doesn't move. Our economy swells, it grows, there's opportunities. Sean, you could be worth $1 billion, and I can still have a fantastic life. You're not going to suck up all the money out there, and that's a fallacy that we're promoting to people, that you're poor because somebody else is rich. You can't get ahead because someone else has gotten ahead. Therefore, let the government take care of you. Back to Deneen's point.
No, Governor, let me go back to you. One of the things that I think is most startling, because people will hear, when they hear news about the unemployment numbers going down, there's one big problem with that. The labor participation rate is so low now that if it was the same number than when the president took office, we'd have 11 to 12, you're the economist, 11, correct me if I'm wrong, it'd be about 11% unemployment in the country. How could we have accumulated $7 trillion in debt, double the number of people on food stamps, and have fewer people working? in terms of real numbers. That's why did this whole thing fail the way it did?
Look, I think what is important that we concentrate on in this country is the economic growth agenda. Tax reform, regulatory reform, investments in education. Deficit reduction is important, but what people want is jobs. What people want is economic growth.
Why don't we drill?
Technology.
Why don't we go for oil shale? Why don't we go for natural gas?
No, I'm for that, Sean, but I think we also have a balanced effort in energy, renewable energy, oil and gas extraction,
But it works.
shale gas.
But permits on federal lands have gone down 40% under this president.
No, they've gone up.
No,
No,
private
they've gone
lands.
up.
Private lands.
It's the private lands that are
If
providing.
you combine the
answers.
federal and the private, it's gone up
no,
more.
the federal went down, the private went
The
up.
shale gas boom has enabled us, I think, because of energy efficiency, to become, and oil and gas extraction, to become the biggest energy producer in the world,
Sean,
surpassing Russia and Saudi
If
Arabia.
I'm a
we
Saudi
know
billionaire,
is-
I'm thinking America's stupid.
Well, Obama has a war on fossil fuels. He said he did not like coal before he was elected. We have thousands of coal miners who are out of jobs. This is driving more Americans to the government plantation. And you're going to see more of these people being in these desperate situations because unemployment is so high.
All right, last question. Bob Costas chimes in on the controversy over the Redskins nickname during halftime.